longer clips. Yep.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Monday night edition of the program. We're live and national, talking about everything going on in America at night. And American Revival is upon us. This is a very interesting day, a day after the Charlie Kirk Memorial. And so much I want to get into. I mean, you've got the things that were said at this seemingly like a revival meeting, right? It was one of the most beautiful homegoing tributes I've seen in a long time. And I think that's how it ought to be, right? I can only hope that mine will be like that, but instead of a choir, I'd like a DJ, a live DJ, maybe even a live band. He did have a live band. I saw Brandon Lake there doing his thing in praise and worship. But I want to play a couple of these clips for you because there's plenty that went on, right? Erica Kirk forgiving the assassin. The entire cabinet was there. Secretary Rubio preaching like a Pentecostal preacher. Some people on Twitter, I maybe presumed I was making a mistake saying, excuse me, he's Catholic, sir. I knew he was Catholic. I was saying he sounded like a Pentecostal minister. And my guy, Sergio Gore from the White House, cooking, absolutely cooking, bringing the fire, as well as El Trompito, Don Jr., cracking some good jokes in a difficult time. Don Lemon, freaking out over this revival meeting. So much I want to get into. We're going to get into that with David Vozell from the Media Research Center in a little bit as well. Make sure you don't miss that conversation. But there's also a shooting. So Democrats shot up a ABC TV studio in Sacramento, California. And I got a story I want to share with you about this shooting in New Hampshire, separate shooting. But I want to start with Erica Kirk. Erica Kirk doing what many people say is the impossible mission, right? Forgiving the assassin of Charlie Kirk.
Father, forgive them, for they not know what they do. That man, that young man, I forgive him.
Kirk, and just a moving tribute to her husband, taking over the organization that he built, and it's just an amazing thing. And really, I think what America needed, right? America needed to see this difference, the reaction, right? The fact that people, we don't want to repay, a little tongue-tied here, evil with evil, but evil with good. And I think that was, in large part, obviously that's the message of Christ, but this is in large part what I think Charlie Kirk stood for, or at least tried to embody. And I think sometimes he got it right, sometimes he got it wrong, like any one of us would. But ultimately, I think that is the message that America needed to hear. And again, just really moving, very fitting, right? That, how cool are you when, the entire cabinet, the president, the vice president, cabinet, half of the cabinet at least, all in the same room, really just goes to show you the impact that Charlie Kirk and his work had on America. But I want to continue because there were some moments here that I thought were really standout moments. You got Secretary Marco Rubio so fired up. He sounded like I said, like a Pentecostal preacher. Check this one out.
His deep belief that we were all created, every single one of us, before the beginning of time, by the hands of the God of the universe, an all-powerful God, who loved us and created us for the purpose of living with him in eternity. But then sin entered the world and separated us from our Creator. And so God took on the form of a man and came down and lived among us. And he suffered like men. And he died like a man. But on the third day, he rose unlike any mortal man. And to prove any doubters wrong, he ate with his disciples so they could see, and they touched his wounds. He didn't rise as a ghost or as a spirit, but as flesh. And then he rose to the heaven, but he promised he would return. And he will. And when he returns, because he took on that death, because he carried that cross, we were freed from the sin that separated us from him. And when he returns, there will be a new heaven and a new earth, and we will all be together, and we are going to have a great reunion there again with Charlie and all the people we love. Thank you, and God bless you.
Amen. Praise God. Hallelujah. That, again, Secretary Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, just bringing that heat. And good for him. I thought, this is probably the most impassioned speech I've ever seen the secretary give, probably one of his best, in my opinion. Not saying he isn't, good on other occasions. He's great. But I thought this was truly genuine, truly from the heart, and talking about something he really cared about, something he really is passionate about, his own faith. And I made this comment in response to somebody tweeting that this is the most passionate we've ever seen Marco Rubio, and my comment was that he cooked. He brought it like a Pentecostal minister, and a few people on Twitter were saying, he's Catholic, right? And it wasn't a play against or for Catholics or for or against Pentecostals. It was just the passion that he brought, and I think some people took that the wrong way. So if your feathers were ruffled, forgive me. You should not be offended by somebody saying you're a Pentecostal preacher. Some of the best preachers have been Pentecostal ministers. But I want to continue because so many passionate remarks were brought, so many. Sergio Gore, who's actually the person that introduced me to Charlie Kirk. And Sergio gave us some really warm remarks, very passionate as well. Sergio is the director of White House personnel in the White House, and he's also been nominated by President Trump to be ambassador to India. Listen to His Excellency. Check this out.
Today, I want to ask every person in this arena and the millions more watching around the world, will you make sure that we continue to build upon what Charlie Kirk started? I want to ask each and every one of you today, if you believe in America, stand up. If you believe Charlie Kirk represented the best of us, stand up. If you believe in the power of Charlie Kirk, his mission, his courage, his conviction, stand up. Charlie, we miss you. We love you. We wish you were here with us today. We will never forget you. Rest in peace, my brother.
That again, Sergio Gore, outstanding job there in his tribute to Charlie Kirk. And so much I want to discuss. We're going to get to your calls, your thoughts, your reactions, and so much more straight ahead. 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. You know the number. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts and what you took away from this event. And by the way, Jimmy Kimmel is back, right? Today a decision was made to bring back his show. And, of course, mixed reaction over that with Sinclair Broadcasting saying we're still not carrying the show. At least as of right before this show, they were saying they weren't carrying it. I don't know if they'll change that tune tomorrow, but we'll find out more. Plus, I want to play that funny clip for you of Don Jr. doing an impression of his dad. That was really good. And President Trump making an announcement today about Tylenol. All of that and so much more is coming up straight ahead. 833-4-Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
To kill a man like this, he didn't deserve this. He didn't deserve this. Our country didn't deserve this. And anyone who would make excuses for it are just out of their mind. Charlie's murder was not just an attack on one man or one movement. It was an attack on our entire nation. That was a horrible attack on the United States of America. It was an assault on our most sacred liberties and God-given rights. The gun was pointed at him, but the bullet was aimed at all of us. That bullet was aimed at every one of us. Indeed, Charlie was killed for expressing the very ideas that virtually everyone in this arena and most other places throughout our country deeply believed in. But the assassin failed in his quest because Charlie's message has not been silenced. It now is bigger and better and stronger than ever before, and it's not even close.
That, of course, President Trump at the tribute to Charlie Kirk yesterday in Arizona. And I want to bring in a friend of mine, a fellow broadcaster, Ben Ferguson. He's the host of The Ben Ferguson Show, co-host of The Verdict with Senator Ted Cruz. And he's with us now. He was on ground in Arizona yesterday. Ben Ferguson, welcome, brother.
Hey, man, so good to hear your voice. Good to chat with you. And I was wondering how long it was going to take me to get to finally be on your show. So, I feel honored right now. It's like, man, I'm on the do not book list, or there must be a liberal Democrat next to my name. I was getting a complex over here.
No way, Ben Ferguson. I just thought you went to sleep early. Now that I know we won't stop bothering you. But Ben Ferguson,
I love it.
Likewise, bro. It's good to hear from you, man. Me and Ben go way back, and I wanted to really give the audience a little bit of a bird's eye view of what they may not have gotten from your coverage on Fox and what they may not have seen on television. But tell us about, being at the memorial service yesterday and, the vibe, the energy in the room, because there was so much that, I think people didn't see.
Yeah, I'll start with the flight in. And I was flying in on United from Houston, heading out to Phoenix. And there was obviously, fair number of people on that flight that were going for Charlie and going for this memorial service. And they had their hats, their MAGA hats on and their freedom shirts on. But it was not Southwest. It was a United flight. And so it was, normal. But when we landed, the plane just broke out in song, Amazing Grace. And not just one verse, the whole thing. And that was just something that started, I was like, this is incredible. And at the very last second, at the very, very end, it was, I grabbed my phone and I was like, I got to record this. This is incredible. And they played, and we sang the last verse, and then someone yelled for Charlie, and then the whole plane just kind of started clapping. And that literally was the tone of the entire time. There was nothing but love and kindness. That night, I had dinner with Ken Paxton, the Attorney General in Texas, and Senator Ted Cruz, who's obviously my co-host, and with some other friends, and just everybody at the hotel was just happy to be there, sad but happy, and hugging and kind and loving and encouraging words. And then the next morning, I headed out early because we were hearing it was really tough to get in with security. And so I left earlier than I was imagining, and I had to abandon the car that I was in about 2 miles away from the stadium. And already at that early in the morning, there were people that were being turned away because they just weren't going to get in. And no one was angry. No one was upset. I witnessed people doing Bible studies on the side of the road. I witnessed people holding hands in a circle and praying. People were not mad. Everybody that showed up, the 200,000 plus that showed up there, they didn't have tickets. Like the majority of people, so that, just to paint a picture, the only people that had tickets were dignitaries, cabinet members, Turning Point colleagues and their family, and friends of Erica, and donors who'd been supporters of Turning Point. But besides that, it was all like show up and hopefully you get in. And that's the part that I think was just incredible, was how many people just said, I have no plan. I don't know if I'm going to get in, and I'm going to get on a plane, or I'm going to drive, and I'm going to get outside at 4 a.m. in the morning, and I'm going to sit in line, and I'm just going to, because I just want to be there. And the overflow stadium was also jam-packed, and there were people that were just, leaving at 8 a.m. They didn't get in, and they weren't mad. And that's the part that I think was incredible that maybe you didn't catch on TV, was just how much love and unity there was. It was not about politics. I've said that multiple times at my show and on Fox today. It was not a political rally. Like, it was a rally about faith, about God, about becoming a Christian, about being a witness, and about forgiveness. And watching Erica as the day got started and the speakers came up on stage, when Erica got there, it was, I think the whole room was crying with her. The whole room was just, there wasn't a dry eye in the place. And when she gave her speech and she started talking about the Bible, Senator Cruz leaned over to me and grabbed my arm, because I think he was like me, was like, I think I know where this is going. She's going to say she forgives him. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that you forget. That doesn't mean that you let him off the hook. That doesn't mean that there isn't justice. But when she said that, I immediately looked at him and I was like, can you imagine if you are a non-believer and you are watching this, the 100 million, streamers that were out there watching this, can you imagine how confused and how many questions you'd be asking about how could you forgive someone that just took your husband and the father of your children away from you? How could you do that? And that's what that whole day was about. It was just really about that. It was truly, truly, truly incredible.
Folks, we're on with Ben Ferguson, host of the Ben Ferguson Show, and he's the co-host of Senator Ted Cruz's podcast, The Verdict. And Ben, I hear what you're saying, and I love it. And it's kind of what I saw, and I can only imagine what the energy in the room was like. She's an absolute rock star, not because of anything other than I would presume to be the Holy Ghost, right? I mean, just really God and the prayers of so many people carrying her in this really challenging time. But it really, really a beautiful thing that she did to forgive this guy, and I really think it struck a chord. It was the right thing to say, with every camera, every eyeball, with all the attention, with this 100,000 people in this arena. I think that was the message America needed.
It was. And, you look at the numbers that are coming in, they're saying that Charlie Kirk's memorial has broken the most viewers for a funeral ever, more than Martin Luther King, more than JFK. And you look at the number of streams, I mean, the entire world stopped, not just in this country, the entire world stopped to watch this event. And speaker after speaker was sharing the gospel. And that's what Charlie wanted. He wanted to change people's lives. He wanted them to understand that there's another way to live your life than just chasing fame or chasing clicks online and social media or selling your soul to OnlyFans. Like, this was a man that had a purpose. He believed in God. He believed in traditional marriage. He believed in growing and being a family. He believed in being a leader of the home. And one of the things that the vice president said, and I couldn't agree with him more on this.
Right.
He said, I have spoken more about my faith in the last 2 weeks than I've spoken about my faith probably my entire life. I'm one of them. I mean, yesterday and I try not to get choked up, but I got to share the gospel on national TV on Fox News Channel. Without Charlie, I wouldn't have done that.
Look at that. Ben Ferguson, stand by right there. We're coming right back. Amigos, we're coming back with Ben Ferguson, host of the Ben Ferguson Show, co-host of The Verdict with Senator Ted Cruz. And we're going to continue talking some of the lighter moments. Don Jr. cracking a joke. And then, of course, Don Lemon going sideways on this. We're going to get all that and more straight ahead. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Welcome, everyone. I'm not widely known for being a sentimental guy. Anyone who's seen me on social media knows I'm far more likely to crack a joke or get myself in trouble for posting some grossly inappropriate memes than I am to shed a tear. I know this because I've even gotten the call from that guy a couple times. You know, Don, you're getting a little aggressive on social media, Don. Relax.
That Donald Trump Jr. impersonating his dad, the President of the United States, who I like to call El Trompito Donaldus Magnus, the 45th and 47th President of these United States. And I want to come back to our guest. Our guest is Ben Ferguson, host of The Ben Ferguson Show. He's the co-host of The Verdict with Senator Ted Cruz. And Ben was covering the event, the Turning Point USA event, to memorialize the legacy of Charlie Kirk yesterday at the Cardinals Stadium. And he was covering it for Fox News, and he's with us tonight. It's an honor to have Ben on. He's an old friend. He's a good friend, and he looks terrific on TV. What a set of hair on Ben Ferguson. Ben Ferguson, welcome back.
I'll take any comment on my hair I can get, because, one day it's going to go away. So I'll
I beat you to it
as long as I can.
Well, brother, what was it like? I'll tell you this. I go to places sometimes and people say, I love your show. I love it when you do your Trump impersonation. And, it gets a couple of laughs. And I can only imagine how the mood in the room was lightened when Don Jr. did an impersonation of his dad.
Yeah, it really was. And look, it was a long memorial service, obviously. And so I think there needed to be some ebbs and flows. And he really understood, I think, the room, that it's okay to laugh. Charlie loved to laugh. Charlie loved to have fun. Charlie actually was a pretty big jokester if you talk to his staff. You can even go back and look at videos of him singing in the car with different staff members and rapping. It was really, he was a fun, joyous warrior, and he always loved to have fun. He never was too serious, and I think that's part of the reason why Don wanted to bring a little bit of that to his his speech, talking about his friend. And other people, I don't think people really realize, in 2016, Don Jr.'s body man, which is, for people that don't know the term, it's the guy who's with you basically all the time. When you're he's up before you, he's in bed after you. He's the guy that's carrying your bags and your suit and making sure everything's ready. And it's a body guy. The president has one. A lot of elected officials in D.C. have a body guy. It's the guy that, does the things that need to get done for you to stay on schedule. And Don Jr. Asked Charlie to be his body man, and he traveled with him everywhere. He was a little brother to Don Jr., and that's one of the reasons why he had such a great relationship with the president and a great relationship with the family, and was so involved at the White House. And they were so involved in Turning Point because he loved the president, and the president loved him, and Don loved him as well, and the rest of the family. And so I will tell you, people that I know well that are in this White House have said the president has shown publicly a lot of strength, but he has been truly gutted in private. He was asked a question the other day, right after, like a day or two after Charlie had been assassinated, and he just didn't want to answer it because I think it was just too hard. And he changed the subject to the ballroom, and some people tried to rip on him for that. In fact, one of them was the guy over at ABC that's coming back that we're hearing about, and Jimmy Kimmel in that clip. And if you look at that clip, I really think the president was afraid he was going to lose it. I agree. So he changed the subject, and because he just wasn't ready to talk about it in that manner. So I tell you, it's really, it is the impact that Charlie is going to have, I think, not just on this White House, but I was sitting next to the cabinet members yesterday, and most of them I know just from, what we do. And some of them have been my colleagues in the TV world, and watching them and seeing their sadness and their reaction, I got to tell you, I think he's going to have an impact on each one of their lives and how they run our government and the decisions that they make. I think he's had clearly a massive impact on the President of the United States of America and a massive impact on the Vice President. And you put all that together, and you want to talk about a legacy. He was doing God's work, and he impacted all of them.
Oh, amen to that. Folks, we're on with Ben Ferguson, And Ben, I was just going to share. because I think you're a good witness for this. In what we do, right? In live radio, especially where you get sometimes an antagonistic caller. I'd be lying if I said, I don't look forward to a good debate every now and again. But I have to say, in retrospect at all this, and I try to be respectful and really hear the other side out, but I want to be that much nicer, that much kinder, that much more open to the discussion, because you watch, you can't help but watch a 1,000 of these videos in the last week or so, and you think to yourself, man, I could have handled a lot of things better. Have you had that moment?
For sure. I think it's funny because Wednesday night and Thursday I'll be doing Abby's show on CNN with Scott Jennings, a friend of mine. I think even in the last 2 weeks my demeanor has changed, and I think it will probably be forever changed because of Charlie. I do love a grand debate. I love standing up for what I believe in, but I do think the way I'm going to do it's probably going to be a little bit differently. To honor Charlie, and sometimes just fighting doesn't bring people to your side. That's one of the things that Charlie believed in, is that we've got to talk with more compassion. It doesn't mean that you water down what you believe in, but we've got to talk with more compassion. And I do think there's a change that's going to happen with so many conservatives, and I actually believe it's going to bring more people to our side instead of just divide. Our goal is to bring people to our side, not to isolate or to push them away. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Folks, Ben Ferguson, host of The Ben Ferguson Show. Ben, tell everybody that's listening how they can follow you on social media, how they can subscribe to The Ben Ferguson Show, what they can expect to hear with you as co-host with Senator Ted Cruz on The Verdict. Give us the scoop.
Yeah, if you're a podcast listener, I do 3 different podcasts, so I'll make it really fast. I do one with Senator Ted Cruz called Verdict with Ted Cruz. We do it 3 days a week, and you get a really inside look at what's happening in Washington, D.C. I'd love for you guys to download that one. I start a new podcast January 20th called the 47 Morning Update, and it is 10 to 12 minutes long. It's the biggest stories coming out of the White House each and every day, and it has taken off, and blessed that a lot of people have found they like it because it's quick and it's fast in the morning on your commute. So it's a 47 Morning Update, and if you want just what I do, which is, like what you do, it's more of a long-form show. I do the Ben Ferguson podcast. It's about 30 to 45 minutes a day with, deep dive into where we are and the issues of the day. So they're all very different, but I'd love for people to grab it wherever you can. And follow me on X, Ben Ferguson Show on Instagram, Ben Ferguson Podcast. It's a little different there, Ben Ferguson Podcast. And, dude, always a pleasure to hang out with you as a friend. Congrats on your success in the show. And I miss working with you as I fill in for Levin, but I'm so proud of what you're doing right now. And I think in this business, sometimes we forget to say that, but I've always been rooting for you, and I love what you're doing.
Right back at you, brother. I appreciate that. I really do. God bless you. And folks, Ben Ferguson, a tremendous patriot. He also knows guns and barbecue. So if you tune into his show and you like guns and barbecue, he's talking about that stuff too. Ben, always a pleasure. Thanks for your kind words. Godspeed, my brother.
Thank you, man. See you soon.
You bet. Amigos, we continue your thoughts, your calls, your reactions, and everything else going on in America at night.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Finally, autism is a complex disorder with multifactorial etiology. We are continuing to investigate a multiplicity of potential causes with no areas of taboo. One area that we are closely examining, as the president mentioned, is vaccines. Some 40 to 70% of mothers who have children with autism believe that their child was injured by a vaccine. President Trump believes that we should be listening to these mothers instead of gaslighting and marginalizing them like prior administrations. Some of our friends like to say that we should believe all women. Some of these same people have been silencing and demonizing these mothers for 3 decades. because research on the potential link between autism and vaccines has been actively suppressed in the past. It will take time for an honest look at this topic by scientists.
That, of course, is Secretary RFK Jr., Bobby Kennedy, the Secretary of HHS, and following up on an announcement made earlier today by the President of the United States, El Trompito Donaldus Magnus, the 45th and 47th President of these United States, and President Trump and Secretary Kennedy again announcing that the FDA is going to change the safety label on acetaminophen, also known as Tylenol by the brand name, urging pregnant mothers to stop using it to prevent the risk of autism in children, saying don't take it. And Secretary Kennedy again saying we have to believe all women, right? And I love the play on words here, because this is the game that the left typically has played, right? When you try to make any announcement, they come at you one way. So really interesting to see how this is playing out. And politics aside, this shouldn't be political, right? I mean, come on. We're talking about women that are with child. We want to make sure they're well. We want to make sure we put an end to autism. And I've got to tell you, I love that President Trump is invested in supporting work around autism. I love that Secretary Kennedy, this is what he brings to the table. You know, when he was on this show, we talked about that. And I've listened to him over the years. A lot of people don't know. But RFK Jr., Bobby Kennedy, the now Secretary of HHS, he was a radio guy in New York. He was on Air America back when it was 1590, and then when they moved over, I think he was on 1600 as well on the AM dial, New York City. And I would check out his show from time to time. And he was, he wasn't the same RFK that you have now, right? I think he's in his lane. He's in his lane because he's passionate about this, but he was passionate about many things, right? About the environment and about a lot of things, and a lot of things I think where we didn't agree. But I think his view on a few things has evolved, and I respect that. The conversation we had when he was on this program circled around both, his steadfast views on certain vaccines, as well as his nuanced views on illegal immigration. And that resulted as he went to the border. He was running for president against Trump, seemingly, at the time, right? And when he suspended his campaign and decided to endorse Trump, it was shortly after a trip to the border where I think he realized, one of these days I'll grab clips from that just to replay it, because it was a pretty genuine interaction, I felt. And he saw how badly things were being handled at the border. And I think once he saw that, he said, Trump isn't wrong on this stuff. And he's not. And I think that's what made a believer out of him, in particular on that issue. And it doesn't mean we agree on every issue, but I think on this issue, preventing autism, the research that he's done and the lawsuits he's brought over vaccines over the years and vaccine safety and efficacy, he's practicing what he preaches. So great to hear this announcement that I think for years, again, I remember I had 2 kids when my then wife, was pregnant. I remember her saying, the only thing that I can do is I can take Tylenol. It's the only thing they'll let you take. And which is, it's good advice to not take anything. But now we know, right? Now we know that is not as safe. And I don't mean to laugh. I just think it's like, man, I'm grateful that we know so much today about how our government, certain individuals within our government, right? I don't want to paint with a broad brush, because it's the same government right now that is, I think, peeling back the curtain on this stuff. But at different times, different elements of our government have chosen to be loyal to pharmaceutical companies and to turn a blind eye to what some would say are minimal incidences, right, of autism and whatnot. And I've got to say, I have a niece, and my niece has a daughter, and she's autistic, and the impact is a lot. It's a lot on a family. It's a lot on the child. It's just a lot, right? And not every autistic kid is the same, right? Some autistic kids are just a little isolated. Others, are further on the spectrum and don't function as well. They don't speak. They don't. It's hard for them to communicate, and that's the case for my niece's daughter. And to think that something like this, right, saying, "Hey, look, this is one more thing we know," it's well worth it to me, right? And I think it's well worth it to so many that are listening to know that we shouldn't take it. Don't take it, right? That's literally what he said. With Tylenol, don't take it. Don't take it. That's a quote from Trump earlier today in the Roosevelt Room of the White House telling reporters, don't take it. So anyways, amigos, we're going to continue the conversation on this, on the Kirk Memorial, on Jimmy Kimmel coming back, ABC folding, Sinclair not folding. Will he make it back on all of his affiliates? I don't know. I'm curious to know the outcomes on that. We're going to discuss a little bit about that in the next hour as well. But your thoughts, your calls, your opinions coming up. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Listen, I like your show. It's the best night show there is. I think you got the best spirit, the best emotions. You're real. You're really a good guy.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Know about who Charlie Kirk truly was. He was a missionary with a noble spirit and a great, great purpose. He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent, and I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erica. But now Erica can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right, but I can't stand my opponent. Charlie's angry. Looking down, he's angry at me now. He wasn't interested in demonizing anyone. He was interested in persuading everyone to the ideas and principles he believed were good, right, and true.
That's President Trump again yesterday, quipping about hating his opponent. I want to get some calls, reactions on this stuff. Let's go to Ed. Ed's in Scottsbluff, Nebraska on KO. I can't read it from here. It's too many lines, but our wonderful affiliate out in Nebraska. Ed, go right ahead.
KOLT. Rich.
There we go. Thank you.
I'm glad you put that in context because I heard a portion of that cut overnight last night, and it was not a quib at the time. It sounded quite inflammatory, the 10 seconds that I heard. So you put it all in context for me, and I appreciate you doing that.
Oh, you bet, Ed. And it's what they've been doing to Charlie Kirk for the last week, and honestly for probably the last several years. Trying to make him out to be something that he isn't, or make things he said to be a lot worse or more, like you said, inflammatory than they actually are. And this is what so many in the fake news do, right? Because it's I don't think conservative media is trying to vilify Charlie Kirk or President Trump. It's as President Trump called them, right? The enemy of the people, and I hate to use that term, but sadly, those lies are the enemy of our generation. Ed, shout out to you, brother. Godspeed. Shout out to KOLT Nebraska. Amigos, we return on many of your radio stations. And for those of you who are this is the end, God bless you. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late night talk program featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, Here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Monday night edition of our program. We are live and national this Monday night, 7 minutes past the top of the hour. Welcome back for another hour. Here's the phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And I want to ask you guys, is there a cover-up going on? Are things being hidden from we the people? Now, what I mean is, this was an eventful weekend, right? Eventful. Plenty of things going on, lots of news being broken from Friday when I signed off through now. It was almost like nonstop. There was a shooting at an ABC TV studio. We'll get into that in a moment. There was another shooting in New Hampshire. And now this one I only knew about because I was out and about, hanging out with my friends, being very social. You know me, I like a little music, a little dancing. I'm a fan of the red wine that comes from the Mendoza region of Argentina called Malbec. And so I'm usually enjoying a good fine Malbec on the weekends and whatnot. And my phone starts blowing up, getting all sorts of notifications about something. And somebody on the ground I happen to know a certain way, and told me something that went on, but we've got a clip. Listen to this.
This was a senseless act.
Saturday night at Nashua's Sky Meadow Country Club was supposed to be a night of celebrations and quality time with loved ones, but in a matter of seconds, the club turned into the scene of a deadly shooting.
This has been a really tough last half day or so for the Nashua community and the state and all of the victims affected.
Investigators say 23-year-old Hunter Nadeau from Nashua shot and killed 59-year-old Robert DeCesar when he opened fire near the club's wedding venue and the Prime restaurant around 7:30.
Robert DeCesar and his family and loved ones. Mr. DeCesar was just having dinner with his family at the country club, and his life was tragically taken.
And officials say Nadeau shot and hurt 2 other people.
One of those victims was an employee of the restaurant. One of those victims was a patron.
While at least 4 more suffered non-gun-related injuries. Sky Meadow patrons, guests, and employees were forced to hide until they were moved to safety by law enforcement before police found Nadeau and eventually arrested him.
They responded quickly, swiftly, and effectively. Within 30 minutes, these officers were able to find someone and detain them, who ended up being the suspect.
And at this point, he's been charged with reckless second-degree murder.
This was a senseless
act. You just heard a media report, and you just heard from the Attorney General of New Hampshire. That was Attorney General Peter Hinckley. But guess what? What you didn't hear was what this shooter was yelling. None of the media want to talk about this, but I'm going to talk about it. And the reason why is because I was enjoying myself on a Saturday night when someone reached out to me who was in that vicinity. And not to give away who it might have been or what if they were a witness that was in the country club or not, but somebody called me and said, this man barged into a wedding that was in process, hurting this person and eventually killing him, Robert DeCesar, or DeCesar, but it looks like Cesar. Anyway, and yells "Free Palestine" in the process of shooting these people. This guy was likely a disgruntled worker that was fired and had once worked there. But this is what he yelled. Now, New Hampshire has a long history of having I'm going to use the word interesting for lack of a better word, attorneys general. Some years ago, about 10, maybe 11 years ago, the attorney general was prosecuting my then employer, a guy named James O'Keefe. And that attorney general's name, this is a true story, by the way, Richard Head. Yes, his name was Dick Head. And Attorney General Dick Head was going after O'Keefe for some stupidity. O'Keefe handed him a book, and he said that he threw the book at him. The whole thing's on video. He actually threw the book at O'Keefe, literally, not figuratively. It was an actual book, a book that O'Keefe had written. But anyway, all that aside, this attorney general and the senior assistant attorney general are saying everything that they think needs to be said. The media, of course, nobody mentioning that, I don't know, 14, 15, a number of people that were there all gave the account that this person came in yelling, "Free Palestine." Now, I'm only telling you what I was told in confidence by someone that was on the ground in Nashua. So what is the story here? Why are we covering it up? Why would somebody hide such a, what I would say is an important fact? Now, others might say, well, why is that important, Rich? Is it because you're being an Islamophobe and you just want to make more people dislike or be fearful of Muslims? No, not at all. Zero, negative. None of the above. There was a shooting where a guy busted into a wedding and yelled "Free Palestine" and started shooting people, and a man died. You don't think it's pertinent to say that what he said? Because it's my understanding that he said, "The children are safe now. Free Palestine." Now, witnesses, this is according to Fox News here, witnesses reported hearing the suspect shout "Free Palestine" during the attack. But Fromella, the attorney general, said on Sunday the shooter made, this is what the attorney general said, the shooter made a number of statements during the event. And they don't have any evidence at this time that would indicate that Mr. Naidu, who is the shooter, was motivated by hate-based motivation. Now, I really want to take a moment here. If you are shooting someone dead, is it not safe to say that you hate this person? Right? Or that you're motivated by hate in the least? Because you could say, look, I shot that guy randomly. I didn't know who he was, just wanted to shoot him. I didn't know him, so I couldn't hate him. Okay, I'll take that. But I can say that you were motivated by hate. Do you disagree? I mean, because to me, this seems like we are totally ignoring the obvious and we're trying to whitewash what's going on. And we shouldn't do that. Why? Because if there is some sort of trend or threat or growing sentiment, don't you think people should know? I mean, isn't it our job to just it's my job to give you an opinion on what happens in the news of the day. And isn't it the job of the media, the watchdog of our republic, to actually tell the truth? I mean, this is similar to what Jimmy Kimmel caught heat over, for saying that it was a MAGA person that did what was done to Charlie Kirk. We know that wasn't true. So what is going on here? Now, again, a couple of weeks back, 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, to the time of Kilmar Obrego Garcia, remember him? I was, between radio and TV, I was out there saying things like, the Democrats have never met a criminal they didn't love. Democrats love to defend criminals. I mean, I must have said it a dozen times easily. I was making provocative statements based on what I saw. Why is this happening? Now, you may want to push back and say, well, we don't know if these people are Democrats. You could split hairs however you like. The reality is we have a problem with crazy people, hateful people, and we're ignoring it. We're pretending that we don't have a problem with crazy and hateful people. This person that shot up the ABC News studio, guess what? This person is a known, very active Democrat. Not like a congressional member or anything, but somebody who was active in their politics. Now, I'm not saying all crime is the result of Democrats and that Democrats are bad people, because that would be silly for me to say. I am saying that everything I'm pointing out all leads back to Democrat policies, right? Democrats that are soft on crime, Democrats that are choosing to leave out important parts of this. Now, they may say that's not important. What's important is that somebody shot someone and that we caught them. All right, you could say that all you want, but I would beg to differ. And I would bet every person that's listening to this program, if, God forbid, you were in a scenario like that, wouldn't you want to have the details? Wouldn't you want to know what's going on? Wouldn't you want law enforcement, the Attorney General's office, and everyone else to just tell it like it was, to give the facts of the matter? I'm not talking about revealing the identity of a minor. I'm talking about a very pertinent thing when you have more than a dozen people saying This guy was yelling "Free Palestine" during the attack. Anyway, there's way more to come straight ahead. We're just getting started on this Monday night. I want to continue discussing what is wrong with our media. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. I had somebody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
New tonight, Disney has issued a statement today announcing that Jimmy Kimmel Live will be back in the air on its regular time slot tomorrow night. The company says it spent the last several days having thoughtful conversations with Kimmel before deciding to resume the long-running late-night show. ABC suspended Kimmel indefinitely after comments he made about the shooting death of Charlie Kirk. Kimmel's suspension and subsequent comments from the FCC chairman sparked a free speech debate and protests by TV writers and producers.
That is a report on what's going on with Jimmy Kimmel. And I want to get some reaction to that from David Bozell. David Bozell is president of the MRC Media Research Center, and he's with us tonight. We're going to talk about what happened. Did the government push Jimmy Kimmel out? I don't seem to think so, but the media seems up in arms with their panties in a bunch about it. And now he's back, albeit limited. David Bozell, welcome, sir.
Hey, Rich, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you. And I want to dig into this because there's some debate amongst even conservatives like Ted Cruz and Rand Paul that Commissioner Carr went a little bit Chairman Carr, went too far in making a veiled threat. It doesn't seem like that to me. It seemed like a very frank, matter-of-fact conversation that he had. But that aside, talk to me about, I guess, your initial reaction to this and the news that Jimmy Kimmel will be back tomorrow.
Well, the initial reaction was either Jimmy Kimmel was lying knowingly or was woefully misinformed when he made the commentary that MAGA had spent most of the weekend prior to him going on the air on that fateful Monday night. The MAGA movement had spent most of the weekend trying to distance itself from the shooter. Not true, because anyone who was in the MAGA movement knows and knew, not just instinctively, but had been confirmed by Governor Spencer Cox not like 24 hours before that the indictment was coming that would show that the shooter had left-wing ideologies, that the parents had claimed much the same thing, that he was in this homosexual relationship, and expressed all sorts of hatred for Charlie Kirk as a result of all that. So everyone with a brain the size of a pea paying attention to this story understood where this assassin was coming from, except for apparently Jimmy Kimmel in prepared, vetted remarks. Remember, his writing team writes all this monologue. I'm sure he's participatory in the monologues, but he and his writing team write all this stuff. They vet all of it. Not just because the show says Jimmy Kimmel Live doesn't mean it's live. It's not. And he went out, despite having all this being vetted by the writing team, producers, production team, etc. He still went ahead with it, and knowing what he knew, knowing what he knew from CNN of all places. It's not like Fox was running around by itself saying that the shooter was left wing. CNN had said the same thing. Dana Bash had confirmed it with Governor Cox from Utah. So anyway, so he either knows he's lying or he's woefully misinformed. And then two affiliates, Nexstar and Sinclair, suffered the wrath of their customers, and Chairman Carr, in his charter, has an obligation not just to the public that the broadcasters serve in the public interest, but he also has an obligation to the broadcasters. And I think the way this went down, I know he gave the interview with Benning Johnson, but I think the way this went down was that the affiliates essentially called Brendan Carr and said, what are our options? I mean, do we have any leg to stand on here? It was the affiliates who said we're not going to air him. It wasn't the government. It were the affiliates who said that they were not going to air him. And we know that because today it wasn't Brendan Carter who said, "Okay, Mr. Kimmel, you can come back on the air now." It was Disney.
The same people that took him off.
Back on the air. Exactly. So there's this old adage, Rich, there's this old adage in TV land. This is, dating me, perhaps. But it's true. You have to keep the affiliates happy. And we've sort of lost sight of that because in the streaming social media era, there really is no such thing. But when it comes to broadcast licenses, you've got to keep the affiliates happy. And Sinclair and Nexstar represent about half of all markets in the United States. And they were obviously feeling it from their customers. I mean, Sinclair, I'm not going to be able to see it in Washington, D.C. locally tomorrow night because Sinclair's already said that they're not going to bring them back. And Sinclair owns the local WABC station here, the television station. So Nexstar, it hasn't decided yet, as far as I know, as of now. But they're in Chicago, so it's not like they're sitting here in these ruby red markets, just catering to the conservative right. They own markets all over the country, and look, Rich, they're in the cord preservation business, right? We are living in the cord cutting era.
Yeah.
And their business is to keep the cord plugged in. And if you're going to hear from your customers that they don't want a guy like Kimmel spewing this kind of bile, they have an obligation to respond to the consumer base. I think it's as simple as that. With all due respect to Senator Paul and Senator Cruz, and I adore him dearly, I think they're wrong about this.
Yeah, I think your analysis is right. I don't think that they're wrong in what they said. Right? They said the government shouldn't be involved. I just don't know that the government is necessarily involved. Right? I think that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. Yes. Right.
100%. David Bozell, president of MRC, the Media Research Center. And David Bozell, I want to continue this conversation with you. We're going to take a pause momentarily, but it seems to me that we've seen a little bit of a shift in I'm going to say since Inauguration Day, right? Where it was once kind of taboo to wear the red hat, taboo to think that boys shouldn't play in girls' sports, things like that. Where I think a lot of that has shifted in public perception, but we're not out of the woods yet. And when we look at this memorial service that we just saw for Charlie Kirk, breaking all sorts of media records, yet some in the media, like Don Lemon, kind of weigh in on the side saying this isn't good. It's an American revival and it's bad. At least that's my takeaway. So I want to get your thoughts on that when we return. Folks, we're coming right back with David Bozell. He's president of MRC. David Bozell is joining us, and he's coming right back with us. So don't go anywhere. Don't touch that dial. I'm Rich Valdez.
Thanks for what you do. You have so many people. You ask the questions that if the viewer had a microphone, they would ask that question, and you seem to always ask it right at the right time. So God bless you, my friend.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
The deal. How much is the deal? And if you can't give an exact number to how much the deal is, when can we expect to learn how much the deal is being valued at? And then separately, who are the members involved in the deal? Like, can you share any more details there? So I don't have a specific number for you, nor am I going to confirm the specific individuals and entities in the deal, Akela, but I do have several details I'm happy to run through for all of you, and the president will be signing the deal, the official deal, later this week at some point. Under the terms of this deal, TikTok will be owned by a majority of American investors and controlled by a board of directors with extensive national security and cybersecurity credentials. In partnership with the U.S. government, Oracle will serve as TikTok's TikTok's trusted security provider, and they will independently monitor the safety and data security of all U.S. user data on TikTok's platform. Americans' data will be stored securely in the United States without access from China. All U.S. user data will be stored on servers operated by Oracle in the United States, protected from surveillance or interference by foreign adversaries. And the algorithm, I know this is a question many of you have had, will be secured, retrained, and operated in the United States outside of ByteDance's control. And TikTok will remain globally interoperable, meaning TikTok users in the US will be able to see videos posted by users in other countries and vice versa. While I don't have a number on the specific deal, we do expect that thanks to the president's leadership and the securement of this historic deal, businesses using TikTok will generate as much as $178 billion in economic activity within the US over the next 4 years.
That is Caroline Leavitt, White House press secretary at the White House today. And that's the latest on the TikTok deal. I want to continue our conversation with the president of the Media Research Center, David Bozell. And David Bozell, this deal, interestingly, to me, I look at this and I say, this is Trump being Trump, right? He realizes the financial impact, the media impact that TikTok has, but he also realizes what a danger it can pose if it's in the wrong hands of the communist Red Chinese. So he's been trying to, walk the tightrope here so that he's not shutting it down completely. Like in his first term where he said, we're going to pull the plug. And I think that was probably the right decision. And I think they've kind of taken heed to that. But those are my thoughts. What are yours?
Well, he also realizes the opportunity for the Republican Party. I mean, I think he got like 38 billion views or something like that on TikTok. I mean, he absolutely dominated it in a presidential campaign in which his opponents, plural, both Biden and Kamala Harris, needed to dominate TikTok in order to win, and he ended up smoking both of them. So he understands that there's an audience that can be messaged to. Now, none of this works unless the algorithm is rewritten and China can no longer spy on Americans. I mean, that really is the thrust of it. And I suspect that will probably take at least 8 to 11 to 12 months in order for that to get sort of redone and completely and thoroughly and satisfactory. It's in a satisfactory way to the board and those at Oracle, et cetera. So that's really the main thrust of it. The dollars and cents will be what the dollars and cents are. Someone's going to get fabulously wealthy out of this. And if there is U.S. investment, you would think that the United States taxpayer sees return on that investment. So, I mean, God knows we saw money get flushed down the toilet with all sorts of green new energy deals and stuff like that both Obama and Biden took us down. So those passed. So hopefully we'll make some money on our investment. But most importantly, Rich, so long as the algorithm is written so that China can no longer spy on Americans, that's got to be a net positive.
Yeah, I agree. There's a huge national security component to this. That's, I think, the bottom line. And hopefully Larry Ellison will do the right thing moving forward with his investment. Now, I want to stay on this topic, but in a different direction, which is you mentioned, the impact that conservatives have made via TikTok, really with that Gen Z audience. And, I rely on MRC for a lot of data. You guys do a lot of good surveys, put out a lot of good reports on how negative coverage is for so many people, including Trump and others. And it's eye-opening, but it quantifies what a lot of us see when we're scanning the media. So in that vein, I feel like the needle has moved in the direction of America. But I don't know if I'm being overly optimistic. What are the numbers telling you? What can you share?
Well, look, I mean, let's stay on the late night beat. 99% left-wing guests in 2025. So
that's so true.
That not good for the late night guys. They've had two Republicans/conservatives. One was Greg Gutfeld a couple weeks ago and Jimmy Fallon. The other was Liz Cheney. So she doesn't even really count. So one, conservative on the late night broadcast networks. The View, things like The View, 102 left-wing guests to 0. right-wing guests on The View. So, so they'll complain, say, well, we invite people, but nobody shows up. Well, Bill Maher seems to invite Republicans, and every Republican shows up. So
Right.
somebody's not telling the truth. Either they're not inviting people, or they are, and we're not showing up. I tend to think that they're not really inviting Republicans. That's on the broadcast side. Republicans and conservatives have more opportunity to go viral and to be seen than ever before. That's the good news. Bad news is that legacy. I call some people call them legacy. I call them the upper class media. Let's look at just some of the numbers. I mean, the New York Times has about 100 million visitors a month, right? So a lot of that is Wordle and crossword puzzles, etc. Compared to some of your top shows on the right, like Megyn Kelly's or Tucker Carlson's, they're reaching about 10 to 20 million a month in terms of unique visitors. So just want to be very clear. These are unique visitors on both sides. So 100 to 20, you still got to tip your hat to the gray lady, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So they still, even though the ratings are all down, Rich, and that's good news, they're still, the majority dominating force in the market today.
We all have work
now
to
you
do,
do
right?
feel it. Yeah, we do have work to do. Of course, I think I feel the same thing you're feeling, which is people are a little bit more emboldened to speak up and speak their minds and wear their red collar hats if they want to. But still, the legacy, the upper class media outlets are still the ratings elephants in the room for sure.
David Bozell, congratulations on becoming president of the Media Research Center. Congratulations to Brett
Thanks, Rich.
Bozell on
I appreciate
you're
it,
welcome.
brother.
And his
Thank you.
appointment to the administration. And before you go, I want to make sure you have a chance to tell us, you guys, I'm not sure everybody knows. I try to plug it as much as I can because MRC's got Newsbusters and MRC Latino, and you've got a number of different projects, the Free Speech Project. Talk to us a little bit about all the different work you're doing and where people could find it.
Yeah, well, MRC.org, Newsbusters.org, MRCFreeSpeechAmerica.org. So write all those down, kids. I'm absolutely blessed to lead a group of men and women who come through the elevator doors every single day, who understand the task at hand, which is for decades, there has been a cabal of press out there that looks at most of America as flyover country, that has a contempt for faith. I mean, you heard it in the Don Lemon clip you just played.
Yeah.
There's just this outright contempt for faith, for traditional values. And so the men and women who report to MRC every single day want that contempt exposed, documented, and by doing so, hope to show people that what they're getting from their traditional sources is not the truth. It's sometimes outright lying, but we want to embolden people to seek other alternatives of news and information. And in the information era, which we've kind of gone from the news era to the information era, the conservative choices are plentiful. Go seek them out. They're quite entertaining. They'll do the trick. You'll get truth. You'll get balance. You'll get fair reporting. We need to get bigger. We need to mature. The conservative media ecosystem needs to get bigger, mature, and expand into international markets and those types of things, and have our own bureaus. And we need to be able to tell the big story. But we'll get there. But in the meantime, we need to continue neutralizing this just vicious agenda that most of Madison Avenue in New York and Los Angeles and the Washington markets, just this vicious agenda they have in convincing the American public that they shouldn't be conservative, they shouldn't love their country, that the country's not worth fighting for. And so that's why we report to work every single day. And someone's got to do it. Someone's got to watch it, so you guys don't have to. And that's what we do.
Outstanding. David Bozell, Godspeed to you. Don't be a stranger.
Rich.
Hope to have you back soon. You're welcome.
Anytime, brother. Take it easy.
God bless. Amigos, we return with your thoughts, your calls, your reactions, and so much more straight ahead.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Democratic New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani has canceled a scheduled town hall with ABC 7 New York over the decision for the channel's parent network to suspend Jimmy Kimmel's late-night show. ABC suspended Jimmy Kimmel Live following Kimmel's on-air comments about the administration attempting to, quote, score political points following Charlie Kirk's death. The fallout of the suspension has ignited a debate over free speech and where the FCC can exert rhetorical influence. Mamdani says ABC 7's parent companies, Disney and ABC, failed at, quote, upholding the freedom of the press. He says the message Kimmel's suspension says is, quote, a message the First Amendment is no longer a right that can be counted on. Mamdani vowed that as mayor, he would fight those seeking to take away freedoms and divide people. He currently holds a double-digit lead in the polls against former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo and Mayor Eric Adams. Both are running as independents.
Notice how he leaves out the actual Republican running in the race, and then people wonder why I criticize the journalists in the media. Because let me tell you, these guys, they just don't get it right. Anyway, your thoughts, your calls, and your opinions. Let's go. 833-4-VALDEZ. I want to go to Chris, Santa Clara, California, checking us out, streaming us, KSFO. Go right ahead, Chris.
Hey, Rich. You probably remember I served 16 years on the Democratic National Committee. What you may not know is that my master's degree is in Catholic Pastoral Ministries and Catechetics.
Nice.
And so I've kind of had an opportunity to be in the Democratic Party, but clearly be a very active Catholic, and been active in parishes for many years, worked for the church for a while. I think that the memorial service for Mr. Kirk was appropriate within the context of his, brand of Christianity. I mean, it makes sense that, people would have gathered together to mourn and to come together, and I think that's fine. I called because you were talking about the media, and at least from my perspective, and I'm going to kind of give you a compliment here. You may not realize you are the media. And I mean, even here in the Bay Area, which is a reasonably decent-sized media market nationally, there is no NBC radio outlet. There is no ABC radio outlet anywhere in the San Francisco Bay Area. So there's there's a CBS news station. But when you think in terms of what's on the radio, it's probably 85% much more conservative, way more conservative than you. And so I think there's an image out there that somehow everything's being controlled by whatever, I guess the amoral left. And so I wanted to, at least kick that out there a little bit. And then your screener, when he and I were chatting, we talked a little bit. He brought up a question to me about ghost guns, and I think we have a ammunition-related comment that he was suggesting I share with you after you talk about media.
Cool. Well, let me first say I've always liked when you call, Chris. I've always appreciated it. Because of your work on the school board, and I think that you're a good dad. You always talk about your daughters, and I always hear that resonate through you. And I guess it's your Catholic background that appeals to me. Right? I didn't know about all that, so I'm glad about your education there, and hopefully that you're doing a lot more with it in ministry. The other stuff, all I could say is God forgives us all, right, for your work with the Democrat National Committee. And that's a joke. But, of course, with me being the media, thank you. I appreciate that. I tend to think of myself more as a talk show host that's, giving my opinion on, the big ticket items of the day. But when I'm talking about the media, and my critique is really on the journalists that are missing the mark, and occasionally on cable news and broadcast media people, mainly in journalism, but occasionally those in the opinion side of things. Yeah, I am never going to fault somebody whose job is to give their opinion and say, I can't believe your opinion. I may not believe their opinion, but it doesn't mean I'm going to fault them for having it, right? I'm just going to debate the merits of it from my perspective. So that's the distinction for me on the media. But I do appreciate your kind words on that one. I'm going to have to leave the ghost guns for another day because my producer's in my ear telling me we got to pause. But I do appreciate it. And it's good to know that people have very limited options, including with me being one of them. So shout out to everybody in the Bay Area, and I appreciate it, Chris. Amigos, we're coming right back. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, to the phones we go. Let's go to New York, WGDJ. Check in with Joseph. Joseph, you're on with Rich Valdez. Go right ahead.
Rich, God bless you. Yes, Rich, God bless you and your great workers.
Amen. You too.
Rich, okay. Rich, with Calvin Klein's fashions, his CK initials, wouldn't that drive the criminal crazy lefties crazy if the rest of us Americans would see this CK and would remind us of American patriot Charlie Kirk?
Yeah, it might. It might. Let me tell you, I can tell you that I've been, a lot of my texting and back and forth, that's CK has been synonymous with Charlie Kirk in the last week. And I think, what we saw yesterday, this American revival, was so emblematic of the impact that Charlie Kirk has had. I've seen so many really interesting videos, and I've seen some that are, distasteful and really untoward, but some that were really just heartwarming, where people who are, kind of on the fence saying, look, I've never liked you, I've never liked Trump, I've never liked any of that stuff. But man, after seeing the way, the people that I thought were on my side treated Charlie Kirk, I don't want to be a part of that anymore. And it's encouraging to me when you have people saying, look, I'm leaving the left. And not because of anything I said or did or Trump said or did, but more so because of what they've seen their side to truly be. And I like that. I like it when we push the fringe to the fringe and hopefully out, right? Because we don't need the most radical elements. I think we need people that are willing to put America first and do the right thing for their country. Joseph, thank you for your call, for your kind words. I appreciate it. Tony and Paul, I'm down to seconds, but if you stick with me, I'll get to you shortly. We continue with your thoughts, your calls, your opinions, and reactions to everything going on tonight. Straight ahead, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. If you're in one of the markets that doesn't carry us for the third coveted hour of the program, richvaldez.com is a great place to check us out. We're live and national, and the show will continue straight ahead. Hasta la próxima. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome back for another hour of the program. We're live and national. It is 7 minutes past the top of the hour, and I'm happy to be here. It's a true blessing to be with you, America. I don't even know the number anymore. 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez, and I want to get into everything that's going on. Of course, we have a few people on hold. I'm going to get to you momentarily, but I just want to recap some of what's going on. Of course, today being Monday, we had a interesting weekend, right? I mentioned that we had a couple of shootings on Friday, one on Friday, one on Saturday. The one on Friday was of a person that identifies as a Democrat, was upset with ABC television station, so they shot up the station because they pulled the plug on Jimmy Kimmel's show. And Jimmy Kimmel's back, by the way. He's back. He's going to be back on the air tomorrow. Zoran Mamdani, the guy running for mayor in New York City, the Democrat socialist, he says, no, I will not do the town hall with ABC News if you don't bring back Jimmy Kimmel. Listen, everybody knows you didn't want to sit down and do a town hall anyway, right? Wait till those debates come up. There are debates coming up, and let me tell you, Zoran Mamdani, talented, very talented politician. He's a great socialist. If you like socialists, he's a great one. But I don't like them. I'm not into socialists. I'll tell you this, though. What he's not is experienced like the other guys on the stage. His butt, in my opinion, is going to be handed to him by Adams and Cuomo, and, of course, Sliwa, who may not participate in that part of it because they're probably expecting that to happen. They're probably going to just my suspicion is that they're going to ignore Sliwa. The way the media has been ignoring him. They're just going to sit there and, so he's going to have to fight to be seen. It's a good thing he has that red beret on so they can notice him. And those debates are coming up, so we'll bring you that when it goes down. But again, I shared with you last week with respect to the New York City race. Huge influencers in Hispanic, really Puerto Rican music, salsa. Willie Colon endorsing Curtis Sliwa, as well as they call him the president of merengue, Raul Acosta, oro sólido, solid gold, endorsing Curtis Sliwa. And again, Willie Colon may be conservative, but Raul Acosta was just a year ago being rumored to be running for Congress as a Democrat in New York. So very, very telling that you've got Democrats, Dominicans, Hispanics that are lining up behind Curtis Sliwa. You're not going to hear it in the media because they're telling a story. Again, they're ignoring Curtis, hoping you'll say, oh, he doesn't have a chance. He doesn't have a chance. Because you know what happens when you ignore the Republican in a big blue city like New York? You know what happens when somebody calls you and says, hi, I'm calling with with a couple of questions and a survey. I want to know if the election held today, who'd you vote for? If you've never heard Curtis's name before because he's not getting the same media attention as the other guys, then guess what? He's going to poll lower. That's how you skew polling. This is Politics 101. If you haven't seen that ever happen, just take a look back, real far back in history, 2016. A guy named El Trompitos and Aldous Magnus, the 45th and 47th president of these United States, people were saying the exact same thing. Nancy Pelosi was out there saying, trust me, Donald Trump isn't going to be president. Who else? I mean, there was a whole bunch of them, right? There was a whole montage that we played. Oh, trust me, Trump's not going to get elected. Oh, Donald Trump will never be president. And they would laugh and they were scoffing. Right? And last laugh was on them. Now who's laughing? El Trompito's laughing. Because why? Because they tried to manipulate you. They tried to lie to you. They did lie to you. The American people were fooled. They were fleeced. They were duped by the fake, phony fraud within the media. These frauds, they're trying to do the same thing now. They're ignoring Curtis Sliwa, trying to get you to think that he doesn't have a shot, when in reality, it's anybody's game, in my opinion, right? Somebody might be in the lead. Sure, Mamdani has a little bit of a lead. I bet you when it comes to name recognition, Andrew Cuomo's leading the pack, right? And I would bet Curtis Lee was probably close to that in New York City if it was a name recognition poll. I'm sure that Adams and Mamdani don't come close in that department. All of these things matter. And listen, Curtis ran for mayor once before, and only once, by the way, and he did really well for a Republican in a first-time election. I say that why? Because to get the last Republican, which was Bloomberg, he got in because Giuliani handed things over to him during 9/11. Right? That was the year that he ran. So I can say with at least with confidence, Rudy Giuliani ran 3 times in order to win. What a patriot he is, right? He paved the way for so much of what happened in New York, and he didn't earn the title America's mayor for nothing. He did an amazing job. Everybody and their mother knows Rudy Giuliani cleaned up New York City, and he gets respect across the board. I mean, you're going to be hard-pressed to find somebody who's going to trash Mayor Giuliani. They'll trash the Rudy Giuliani of 2020 and beyond, right? They'll say, oh, he was once a legend. Now he's with Trump. He's no good anymore. I've heard all those stories. I reject them all. But nobody's going to say he did a bad job as mayor, that he didn't do the right thing as mayor. He absolutely did. And he did a great job as a prosecutor. So I say that to say, if it took a guy like Giuliani 3 shots to win, what makes us think that, Curtis doesn't have a shot here in his second opportunity to win? Now in the age of social media, where he's got a tremendous social media following, and he's got, in the streets in New York City, he's got a tremendous following. Anyway, I want to continue. I just wanted to mention that because those debates are coming up. And Mamdani, he's got his panties in a bunch because he says because Jimmy Kimmel is not on the air, he doesn't want to be there either. But obviously, we've had some conversation, and we'll probably have more about the Charlie Kirk Memorial. That was on Sunday, which was yesterday, and a very solemn occasion, a very beautiful occasion, right? My Sunday playlist, I have 2. I have one that I call Jesus, one that I call church. One is throughout the day on Sunday to stay chill, and the other one is on my way to church. And I've got Brandon Lake, I think, in both of them, and he was there leading the praise and worship at the Charlie Kirk Memorial. And what a great job he did. He did a fantastic job. It really was an amazing event. 100,000 people in the one stadium. The other stadium, I think, was filled to capacity with just overflow. And so much of this administration was there. So many people that love Charlie Kirk showed up to pay respects. I was honestly ready to go. And I had a commitment with my daughter that I could not kind of change on Saturday. So, therefore, that was it. That was a no-go for me. But I was there in spirit for sure, and it was really beautiful to watch. And we have a couple of clips of that might play in a little bit. But I also wanted to talk a little pop culture, a little entertainment. Because over the weekend, a couple other things happened. Bad Bunny did his final concert in Puerto Rico. Now, Bad Bunny is an international recording artist from Puerto Rico. He does reggaeton and trap and Spanish. And many of you probably don't know him or like him, right? This is a guy that has done weird things in the MTV Video Music Awards, as well as dressing like a woman on occasion. He's been very controversial, for sure. And I don't support any of that stuff. But I do appreciate his music. And more than anything, I appreciate his comeuppance, all right? As a guy who, no lie, my hand to God, I've slept on a studio floor in a radio studio on more than one occasion, sometimes on a couch, sometimes in a chair, right? But to work back-to-back shifts or shifts that were split, I know the grind. I know the hustle of what it is to make it in this radio business. And when by make it, I don't mean succeed. I mean survive, right? And I've seen Bad Bunny come up in his career as a recording artist, and nothing short of remarkable. The most streamed artist in the last 3 years on Spotify. Doesn't happen overnight, but it definitely happened to him. And he did his last concert of his residency in Puerto Rico, and he did that to stimulate the economy in Puerto Rico, which I thought was a nice touch. It was a nice touch for a very island-centric album that he released. Anyway, I can get into that a little bit more later because there was a few things I wanted to talk about. But other point on this weekend, Kanye West. Kanye West released a documentary, which I did see. And in it is Charlie Kirk and Candace Owens. And they have a little bit of a discussion in the film, and it was nice to see Kanye West. He's wearing a red MAGA hat in the part that he's having the conversation with Charlie Kirk and with Candace Owens, and it was just interesting to watch. A very, very interesting take on Kanye West. I was left with, did he really mean what he said? I have to take him at his word, right? But he kind of almost gives a wink and a nod at the end and says that he kind of needed to get out of these contracts, and he knew exactly what he had to say in order to get out of those contracts. And that was really the focus of it, was he didn't want to be contracted with anybody. He wanted to be an independent entity. He wanted to design his own sneakers. He didn't want to have a deal with Adidas. He didn't want to have a deal with anybody. He wanted to be the deal and produce it himself or bust. And it looks like he's gotten there. So reaching billionaire status, and then because of the Adidas deal, the final one that he canceled or canceled him, went down back into the 100 millionaire status. But very interesting take on things, and lots to discuss on that front. But I want to talk about acetaminophen, because President Trump and Secretary Kennedy today announcing that acetaminophen Tylenol could be the cause of autism, with President Trump going as far as saying, don't take it, don't take it. So we're going to talk about that and their remarks when we come back with our guest, Dr. James Thorpe. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I want to listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
The word tough it out, it's easy for me to say tough it out, but sometimes in life, with a lot of other things, you have to tough it out also. Don't take Tylenol. Don't give Tylenol to the baby. When the baby's born, they throw it at you. Here, give them a couple of Tylenol. They give them a shot. They give them a vaccine. And every time they give them a vaccine, they're throwing Tylenol. And some of these babies, they're long born, and all of a sudden they're gone. And it doesn't hurt not to do it. It doesn't hurt. There's no downside. There's no downside at all. And break up MMR. Break it up. It's practically a known fact that if you break it up, you're not going to have a problem. But for years, we've been hearing how bad MMR is as a combination. And I'm very happy that you broke out chickenpox, because that was really a problem.
That is President Trump today at a press conference in the Roosevelt Room discussing the dangers of acetaminophen given to pregnant women and the danger, obviously, to the baby. And I want to get into this with our guest, Dr. James Thorpe. He's been with us before. He's the author of Sacrifice, How the Deadliest Vaccine in History Targeted the Most Vulnerable. He's a board-certified obstetrician, gynecologist, OBGYN, and specializes in maternal fetal medicine. And he's with us now. Dr. Thorpe, welcome back.
Rich, thank you so much for having me back on.
My pleasure. And we just heard earlier from Secretary Kennedy and today from President Trump about Tylenol. And this flies in the face of any advice I ever had. I've had 2 children, and I remember when my then wife was expecting, and all that they said you could ever do was take Tylenol. It's the only thing that was approved. What's going on, Doc?
That's a great question. It was really interesting press conference today, and quite frankly, I think that they seemed a little bit disorganized. There's a lot of folks that are backing Bobby, and they are just ecstatic that this issue has risen up to the president, and the president is mentioning something about the issue of autism and childhood neurological injury. I guess my concern is that, number one, he should have had an obstetrician, gynecologist, or maternal fetal medicine specialist up there.
You should have been there, Dr. Thorpe.
I would have been happy to have been there, but there wasn't an OBGYN maternal fetal medicine specialist up there. And, I love President Trump. I've voted for him 3 times, but, he should let the doctors do the talking and not make such absolutes. And I believe he is so excited about the accolades he got for Operation Warp Speed that he has, he has some character flaws like we all do, but it's my opinion that the whole Tylenol acetaminophen issue is just a smokescreen. It's just a diversion from the real damage which is done by the vaccines, especially the COVID-19 vaccines.
So your thought is that this announcement that they had today, this connection that they find with pregnant women taking autism, you're saying you don't think Tylenol leads to autism?
Let me put it to you this way. There are some retrospective studies, over the last decade that show a weak association. So that's really all that can be stated. There's much stronger evidence, in my opinion. If President Trump had come out and said, don't ever take COVID-19 vaccines in pregnancy. Never, ever, ever. As adamant and black and white as he was about Tylenol, he should have done that with the COVID-19 vaccine. Because
well, hasn't that already been done by Secretary Kennedy? I think he's removed that from the schedule for pregnant women and even healthy women and healthy children, no?
Yes, he has. He did it 6 days after my Senate testimony about that. But nobody's paid attention to him, and President Trump hasn't raised it up the flagpole. And all the organizations, my three main organizations, are ignoring them. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, the American Board of Obstetrics and Gynecology, and the Society for Maternal Fetal Medicine. Now, there are clearly the vaccine is what causes the injury. Now, when you throw Tylenol, whether it's during pregnancy, a vaccine during pregnancy, or a vaccine after birth in the first year of life or thereafter, if a child has an adverse reaction, a fever, and you throw Tylenol at it, yes, that's going to increase the risk of a neurologic injury, autism. Same thing in pregnancy. I think that if you get a vaccine, and there's now 4 vaccines recommended in pregnancy, and you have a fever or you feel some pain or a headache afterwards and you take Tylenol, yes, it will increase the risk of potentially neurological injury.
Thank you, Dr. Thorpe. Amigos, we are on with Dr. James Thorpe. He's the author of Sacrifice, How the Deadliest Vaccine in History Targeted the Most Vulnerable, board-certified OBGYN. Dr. Thorpe, I want to thank you for being with us. I appreciate it. Amigos, your thoughts, calls, and reactions are coming up right now. Don't go anywhere.
After the guest leaves every night and we're doing open phones, kind of at the heartbeat of America, and you sit there in this radio studio and suddenly you hear voices. Mobile, Dallas, New York, Miami. And there's kind of a conglomeration of America all in one room.
Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
What are we seeing? Donald Trump being underwater, Democrats saying, oh, this guarantees us we're going to fly high in midterms. Let me tell you, this guarantees you nothing, because at this particular point, the Democrats are the New Orleans Saints of political parties. What are we talking about? Trust the Dems or GOP more on the economy? Who leads on the economy? Republicans by 7. Immigration, Republicans by 13. How about crime, a big issue for Donald Trump and the Republicans? Look at that, lead by 22 points. So the bottom line is this. At this particular point, the ball may be on the ground, but the Democrats have not picked up the ball and running with it. If anything, at this particular point, it's the Republicans who are running with the ball on the top issues, the economy, immigration, and crime.
Give some context on this. Compare this when Republicans last took the House.
Yeah, let's compare it back to 2022. I think this kind of gives away the game right here. Okay, the GOP is more trusted than the Dems on the economy. It was 12 points in 2022. Slight decline in that lead, but still 7 points. How about immigration? It was Republicans by 3 back in 2022. Look at this. The Republican lead's actually gone up by 10 points. What are you doing, Democrats? My goodness gracious. And on crime, the Republicans were up by 13, and now they're up by 22. The lead again expanding by nearly double digits. So whatever Democrats are doing, it ain't working, Kate. It ain't working. Republicans have the lead on all 3 issues.
What's the reason that you are finding so far that's driving this?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's all about the center of the electorate, right? You win with independents, you win overall. And what do we see right here among independents? Republicans still have a point lead on the economy. They got a 10-point lead on immigration. They got a 21-point lead on crime. The bottom line is, when you look at these numbers, Democrats should call their offices, because at this particular point, even if Republicans, or even if the public doesn't like what Donald Trump is doing, they ain't necessarily liking what Democrats are doing. And it ain't just a referendum on one party. You actually have to go out and beat that party. At this particular point, Democrats are not able to beat Republicans. They still
and again, this isn't as Donald Trump came into office. These are numbers from this month.
These are numbers from September of 2020. 25, we still find that the Republicans leading on all three of these issues. And of course, this economy will be the key. If Democrats are going to win, they're going to have to likely win on the economy. At this particular point among independents, you see that 1-point lead for Republicans. And overall, at least according to the Washington Post, they hold a 7-point lead on the economy overall as well.
What do you think?
Yeah, what are we seeing?
That is CNN's Harry Enton with some interesting news on Republicans and Democrats. And it looks, again, like the pendulum is shifting a little bit. And again, that's from CNN, Harry Enton. I want to get your thoughts on this, on Jimmy Kimmel coming back to the airwaves, on Charlie Kirk and the beautiful send-off that he was given, and everything else from Tylenol to you name it that's going on in the news. Lots going on. Let's hit the phones here. I want to go to, let's see, stand by, bear with me. Let's go to Debbie calling us from Canton, Ohio, WNIR. Debbie, go right ahead. Happy Monday.
Hey, hi, Rich. How are you tonight?
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad you're wonderful. I'm doing okay myself, and I'm really glad that Kimmel is going to get back on the air. I'm sorry, but we all need a court jester, don't we? We kind of need that.
Yeah,
it really makes my heart glad when I listen to him, because even though I agree with a lot that Trump's trying to do, I appreciate his humor so much. And first of all, it was really wrong what was happening there. So, you know,
tell me what what do you think happened there?
I think the government was strong-arming them and coming into play where they shouldn't have been.
Okay.
That's what I saw.
Now, you know, we had a guest on earlier who gave us an alternative perspective, who was saying that it was really Sinclair Broadcasting and Nexstar saying they didn't want to air this stuff, and they reached out to Commissioner Carr, and it was kind of the reverse, which honestly makes more sense, right? Makes way more sense to me that these guys say, you know what, our people, our customers, right, in your area, right? Baltimore, Washington, D.C., Seattle, St. Louis, Ohio, Las Vegas. Those are the areas that Sinclair is pulling Jimmy Kimmel off the air. And their customers said, we didn't like what Jimmy Kimmel said. So that they turned to Brendan Carr for him to say what he said. Now, it makes sense to me only because had it been something initiated by the chairman, he could have done it a long time ago. Didn't have to wait for the Jimmy Kimmel comments. There were plenty of comments that the government, I'm sure, didn't like, that didn't jibe with the public interest. But it was this one, and I believe it was this one because that is what came from the people. So I don't know that you're going to be able to see Jimmy Kimmel on your local ABC affiliate, Deb, in your area, but some people in New York and California, they'll still be able to see him tomorrow. But the people on those range of stations, they're not going to get that chance.
That's all right. I listen to you, Rich, right?
I love that. And I'm glad you're listening to me.
I listen to you. And I listen to Jimmy Kimmel. How
I
about
hope you're
that?
watching it on mute and you're listening to me while he's on mute.
Okay. So that means
love you,
something,
Deb. You're
right?
the best. What's that?
All right. Well, it means something. I listen to you and Jimmy Kimmel.
You're one of the best out there.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. She's terrific. Debbie in Canton, Ohio, WNIR. All right, I'm going to continue this because I love this stuff. Where do we go from here? Stand by. We're going to Paul. Paul is calling us from Globe, Arizona, KVOI. Paul, go right ahead.
I wanted to contribute something. I think that Charlie Kirk has a rare individual that lent clarity when he spoke and when he died. And his wife has that same gift, and it is one of the greatest gifts any human being can give another is clarity, because clarity will clear the board, clean away the hatred, the prejudice. If you can cut to the heart of the matter and express clearly what the real issue is, this country will cease being divided like it is, because right now we are lacking clarity across this entire nation, and that is what is generating, in my opinion, a lot of this mindless hatred. And Charlie had that gift of clarity.
Paul, I think you're right. that both Charlie had this gift, and more than just communicating clearly. I think it's also this being guided by this love that he had for people. Right? He truly embodied what is known in the New Testament as the two commandments of the New Testament. Love the Lord your God with all your mind, your heart, your strength, and love your neighbor as you love yourself. And or more simply put, love God, love people. I think Charlie Kirk did that, and we're all supposed to do it. But I think he made it really evident in all the interactions that you see there. And I think his wife did the same thing, forgiving the guy that assassinated him. Clearly wasn't easy. Most of us wouldn't want to do that. But if you're loving God first and loving people second, then you do want to do it, right? And that is the beauty, I think, of Christianity and the gift that Christ gives us all. So really well put, Paul. I appreciate that. Globe, Arizona in the building, KVOI. Let me see. Where do I go? I'm going to take a pause right here. We're going to come right back. Idaho, Montana, Montreal. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Hey guys, I've decided I'm going to do something. I'm going to share something personal that I wasn't sure I was going to share. But I think it's important. Charlie Kirk and I were not friends at all. In fact, the last week of his life, we were beefing hard, beefing online, beefing on air. But the day before he died, he did something that shocked me. He sent me a personal message, calling for personal dialogue, wanted me to come on his show. He said we could be gentlemen together. He said we could deal with our disagreements agreeably. And in the past week and a half, just watching people talk about civil wars and censorship and all this stuff coming out of his death, I just thought it was important to let people know, don't put that on Charlie Kirk. Because the last day of his life, he was reaching out to have not more censorship, more conversation, more dialogue.
That's Van Jones from CNN. He's a liberal, and every now and again has moments of clarity. And this is interesting, and this happened on Friday, but I didn't get a chance to share it on the air. And the note that he read with Anderson Cooper when he came on TV to talk about this was a direct message on Twitter. Charlie reached out to Van Jones on Twitter after they had been disagreeing over the comments of the man DeCarlos Brown, who stabbed Irina Zarutska in the neck in the Charlotte train. They went back and forth saying it was racially motivated. It was not, because the man, as he was walking away, said, "I got that white girl good." And this back and forth was what sparked the Twitter outrage between Van Jones and Charlie Kirk and whatnot. But Van Jones decided to take a screenshot and published a screenshot of what Charlie wrote to him in a private message saying, "Hey, Van, I mean it. I'd love to have you on my show to have a respectful conversation about crime and race," Kirk wrote in the message, which Jones shared on Instagram. And this is, again, characteristic of Charlie Kirk, always extending that olive branch, trying to be that guy that was like, "Hey, let's talk it out. Let's figure out a way." And God bless him for it. He died doing what he did. And it's great to know. He went on to say, "I would be a gentleman as I know you would be as well. And we can disagree about the issues agreeably." That was Charlie Kirk in a nutshell. So I want to know your thoughts about this and everything else that's going on. Let's hit the phones here. I want to go to, where do we go? Tony. Tony's calling us from the Vermont area. He's in Montreal, Canada, listening on WVMT. Tony, go right ahead.
Rich, I'm listening to these people like Van Jones, a guy that was, pretty much misrepresenting Charlie's words. And I'm just going to mention to you on the 17th of September, a gentleman by the name of Edwin Ferguson Esquire, a lawyer that's on the Florida the Florida county of, I believe it's down in Palm Beach. He basically said that on the 17th of September that Charlie Kirk is a racist and a bigot, etc. And then they asked him, but have you ever read him? Well, no, I haven't heard of him other than when he got killed. So he had never heard of Charlie Kirk. So he basically strawmanned him, and you know what a strawman argument is. Sure. And he also pontificated propaganda that was out there on the left. So, you know, I started doing your duty. I started listening to the left. Like you said one time, I put guys on from the left, not only for entertainment, but for us to hear. So I started listening to the left. And I could not believe it. I was flabbergasted. The vitriolic hatred of people sitting outside of Arizona in the stadium, scoffing people, laughing at people, saying things that are horribly insensitive. Listen, Charlie Kirk was the revolution. He created something that the left was scared of. He mobilized an entire generation of youth, which would have been an entire generation of middle-aged people, and it would have been perpetuated. And that would have ended all of this gerrymandering nonsense. It would have ended all of this wokeness, and they knew it was up. And guess what? Yeah. J.D. Vance and Trump knew that this guy was future VP and future president of the United States. And whoever's listening to me in the United States, you lost a genius of a man that was, I saw him talk to people that were vitriolically hating on him, and he stood there and held his ground and talked politely and intellectually and with an encyclopedic mind. And you are a Charlie Kirk to me, because you are the voice of reason from the right, where you're a fair man, and you're allowing Canadians, which we don't get one station in Canada, and I have to sit here and pirate WVMT Vermont to get a reasonable right-wing perspective. And I'll tell you one thing, you lost a person, okay? I think on the same, I say his death has an impact like Lincoln's impact, like Martin Luther King, Bobby Kennedy Jr., RFK, and obviously JFK. But what I felt was the most important speech was RFK Jr. when he went there speaking, and he said to Charlie, you should never fear death as long as we die with our...
Yeah, you're 100% right. We shouldn't fear death, and we do. We have to live the way we're supposed to. Thank you for saying what you said. I don't know that I can fill those shoes, but I do know that I appreciate your kind words, Tony. And I laugh because you have to pirate stations to hear the truth. You know, sometimes it's like that. You know, years ago, I met a missionary who told me that in China, for people to read the Bible, they have to smuggle it in. They have to rip it up page by page. And then they get together in these underground churches and put by number, they put the Bible back together. But that's how they do their Bible study. They're like, oh, today I've got, the first page of the book of Job. Here, I'll trade for you for this, and it just amazes me. And again, this is, 10, 20 years ago that he was doing this missionary work in China where that was happening. But that happens in some places. And that's not a problem that we have in the United States. But sadly, I guess in Canada, you guys don't have enough conservative radio. So, Tony, thanks for being a patriot. I appreciate it. Godspeed to you. Amigos, we continue with your calls and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
And California is now the first state to ban ICE agents from wearing masks while on duty. Here's Governor Gavin Newsom seemingly taunting those officers.
Unmarked cars, people in masks, people quite literally disappearing, no due process, no rights in a democracy where we have rights. Immigrants have rights, and we have the right to stand up and push back. And that's what we're doing here today. This is a disgrace. This is an outrage, what we have allowed to happen in this country. ICE, unmask. What are you afraid of?
What are you afraid of? That they're clapping there over the comments made by Gavin Newsom. He passed a law, being the first in the country, saying that the state is prohibiting the federal government, federal law enforcement, from wearing masks, and saying that immigrants have rights, like the right to remain silent, the right to get deported, etc. So I want to go to the calls here. Santa Clara, California, KSFO, Bay Area, live tonight. Robert, go right ahead quickly.
Well, I live out here in California, and Gavin Newsom has done a lot of harm. Between just letting the border open, being in alliance with the border czar Kamala Harris, a lot of radical abortion stuff. I mean, it's just endless with this guy, the gaslighting, getting Jasmine Crockett on the show and letting her, be very impressionable to young, impressionable girls, which is not healthy. He knows he's gaslighting. And the whole thing with masks, we have a carrying capacity of how many people we can, put up $500 a night. Some of his cronies are getting that.
I don't know where you're going with this stuff, Robert. I don't even know what you're talking about with Gavin and Jasmine Crockett, but I do agree that he gets me upset too. And let's see, quickly with a minute to go on the clock, Frank, Evergreen, Montana, KOFI, go right ahead. Tylenol.
Hello, Rich.
Hey, Frank.
I have to agree with Trump on Tylenol, because Tylenol almost just killed me just about a month ago. Actually, it was. You look on the bottle; it says it'll shut down your kidneys and your liver.
And your liver, yeah, I've heard about that happening. I'm sorry that it happened to you. I'm glad you're better, and I appreciate the call, Frank in Evergreen, Montana, KOFI. And amigos, hasta la próxima. Take care. Good night, and God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.